Vancouver. Oh, there's so many of you here. Hello. I love this city. I've spent a lot of time here. It's great. It's very beautiful.
That was actually going to be my first question to you. How much time have you spent here?
I've spent a lot of time here.
Yeah? Working or just visiting?
Working, yeah.
What have you filmed here?
Gently, we did 2 seasons here. I was here last year working on Yellow Jackets. Shot a movie out in Tofino called Come to Daddy.
Awesome.
Yeah. Practice, and they played it for him, and he came back and he was like, I need to hear Enter Sandman. I'm like, damn, couldn't we have started with like the first couple of Metallica records? But anyway, it's fine. Yeah, like Sonic Youth, I'll play him, because he's really into guitar-based music, so I'll just like try songs out and see if they stick. And yeah, Cool Thing by Sonic Youth.
It's gotta feel cool when your kids are in a cool
It's
stick.
so fun.
Like
it's
a
so
relief. Okay,
great, yeah.
Well, let's get to your fan questions, because again,
Sure.
so many people. We'll start over here if you want to ask a question.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Sarah, and I've been a big fan of yours for a very long time, obviously. A great excuse to dress up as Arwen. So, as a huge fan of Lord of the Rings books since my childhood, I just want to thank you for making part of my childhood come to life. Because, I mean, the movies were fantastic. The cast, like, you were just perfect as Frodo. So I have a follow-up question with that. Woo! So I actually read that going for the role for Frodo in Lord of the Rings, you decided to get some friends to create an audition tape.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a common practice at that time.
No.
And you were showing various points of Frodo's journey in the audition tape. So what made you think of this idea for auditioning for the role, and how was the process like to make it? Because you may not even have landed this iconic role if you hadn't even done your audition like this.
It's a good point. I don't know that I would have. Yeah, it just occurred to me because, listen, everyone was auditioning for Lord of the Rings.
I believe it.
And I wanted to do something that stood out a little bit and could articulate my passion for it in a way that would be notable. Because the only other option I had at my disposal was to go to a local casting office in Los Angeles. Victoria Burrows was the United States casting director. And basically be put on tape in a room, in an office, probably with a white background. It was relatively banal and very common, like that's just kind of how it's done, unless you're meeting the director or producers or whatever. You're often just put on tape in a sort of standard, nondescript room. And I just thought, oh man, like, this isn't gonna be the great, it'll be fine, and it's very commonplace, but I wanna do something that isn't just simply going into this casting office. And I thought, well, I could just make my own tape and, you know, get costumes and kind of shoot it like a scene. And so I told my agent, like, I'm not gonna go to the office I'm not gonna go to the casting office, I'm gonna make my own tape. And she's like, okay, like, you better do it. And I was like, I'm gonna do it, don't worry. So I went about that process, and I just went and I went to a dialect coach for the accent, got a book on hobbits, and kind of just with various sort of artistic renderings of what hobbits look like. And I obviously had an idea in my head from having read The Hobbit. And went to Western Costume, got a costume, which is not dissimilar from the way that I looked at the movie. And yeah, one scene was in Baggins. We shot that at my house with a friend of mine. And then we shot 2 scenes in Griffith Park. And each one was sort of a different stage on Frodo's journey, the last being kind of on the basically Mount Doom. So yeah, and then my friend who shot the whole thing, and we shot it from a variety of angles, really kind of like you would traditionally shoot scenes. He cut them together at the Miramax offices that night, and then I took the VHS tape, because it was output to VHS, not DVD. I took the VHS tape to the casting office, and then they shipped it, they FedExed it to Peter, who I think was in London at the time. So yeah, that sort of, it got my foot in the door, so to speak. And then when Peter and Fran came through Los Angeles to meet folks that they had seen tapes of that they liked, I then met them and auditioned for them in person. The whole experience was really gratifying. I certainly wouldn't change it. You know, I agree. I don't know that I would have gotten the role had it not been for that.
Yeah, because I read that Peter Jackson, he called you personally.
He did.
Right afterwards.
Not right after. So
I mean, right after he received it.
Well, no. So I spoke to him. I met him in LA. Auditioned again. So did a couple of scenes, and then a couple months later, I was at home, and my agent called, and she said, "Stay by your phone, someone's calling soon." I'm like, oh shit. And I had a feeling, because there's only, you know, we were waiting for a response, you know, and they were casting this movie and it was all starting to come together. So I knew it was hanging in the ether whether I did or didn't get the role. So that there was a call coming in felt like it was momentous, that it could be meaningful. And I had a feeling it could be about that, but I didn't know. And so then the phone rang, I picked up the phone, and it was Jan, who was Peter's assistant at the time, and she said, "Could you hold on the line for Peter Jackson?" And I just, you know, my life like flashed before my eyes.
Wow.
And then Peter was on the other end of the call, and he said, "Hello, Elijah, you know, I'd love for you to come down and play Frodo. Do you want to come down and do that?" I'm like, yeah. Yeah, awesome. I do.
And also,
it was like accepting a journey, you know. It was really the thing that's important to impart to people, and I'm sure all of you who have watched the movies and certainly watched the appendices and know kind of the basic production and the Herculean effort was to bring these movies to life. Accepting that role was so unlike any other opportunity any of us had ever had, because it was a commitment way beyond what we had had before or since, really, in the sense that you were going down to a country very far from your home for 16 months of principal photography to shoot all 3 of these movies back to back or simultaneously. It was huge. It was like accepting a life adventure, and it was. It was like, I mean, it was akin to, you know, Bilbo sort of going like, yeah, to the dwarves, you know, like, oh, okay, sign me up.
Thank you so much for your question. We're going to move on over here.
Sorry, it was a long answer. Took up a lot of time. I apologize.
Hello, my name is Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
Hey. Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. This is absolutely, like, incredible. I really love Frodo Baggins and Lord of the Rings, and it just means so much to me. Something else about me is that I love theater and I love acting. So I just wanted to hear about, like, your perspective on acting and, like, what draws you to it and what, like, has kept you in that industry, like, through all these years.
Oh, wow. Well, it's different every time. What draws me to it? I think now, more than maybe when I was younger as a kid, I just love filmmaking. I love the process. I love the creative process. I love a group of people gathering around an idea that they're all a part of facilitating that idea together creatively. And that's such a fun feeling. It's such a great feeling to be involved in a team of creative people bringing something to life. And so that's what I really get out of it. I love acting. It's my entry point. It's what I have done my whole life. So that's my way to participate in that process. And I also love that. I love figuring out how to play a character, who a character is, putting on the wardrobe, being in the context of an environment and having all of that inform on that performance and what it is that I do, working with other actors, being inspired by all of that. It's really fun. It's really fun. And yeah, I think as I said, I think it's different every time, which keeps it consistently interesting and fascinating and keeps you on your toes. I feel like I'm always learning, I always get really anxious before the first day of shooting, like it's the first day of school still. I go through it every time, no matter how long I've been doing this. So it's still a thrill, you know? And I love seeing it all come to life. I just love filmmaking, which is why I started a production company, because I want to be a part of every aspect of it. I enjoy that process, and I love movies, you know?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, over here.
Hi, Elijah.
Hi.
My name's Erica.
Hi, Erica.
I wanted to ask you, now that you're more of an experienced actor, if you could go back in time and refilm any of Frodo's scenes, what scene would it be and how would you make it different?
Oh. I wouldn't endeavor to change anything. Because here's the thing, like, hello? Here's the thing. I'm certainly more experienced now, just simply based on time, right? And my own life experience and the wisdom that comes with that, and my collective life experience now is certainly, I think, makes me a better actor than now, right? I think it does. I'd like to hope it does. But the idea of stepping back into a role you've done, I wouldn't want to change anything because that's who I was then. And my collected experiences and the environment we were in, which was so new and fresh and exciting, and the way that films were made then, I mean, there's so many variables, right? That lent to those performances and those films turning out to be the way that they are. I wouldn't want to touch it. Yeah, I wouldn't. I would love to. Look, I would love to go back and make the movies again, just simply because I want the experience again. Like, I would love to go back and live in New Zealand for 16 months and just fucking be in the wilds of New Zealand and create with those wonderful people. Give me that over and over and over again. But the responsibility now, it actually gives me anxiety to think, like, I don't want to touch it. I'm proud of the work. There's an alchemical element of so many combined variables.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to touch it.
That's a wonderful answer. Thanks, Elijah. Enjoy Vancouver.
You could just tell people that you would just take the Eagles to Mordor.
What's that?
Say that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How many times do you get asked that?
Many times.
You're just-
Yeah.
Go ahead, over here.
Hi, my name's Emily, and
Hi, Emily.
I'm actually a film student here in Vancouver.
Oh, rad.
And probably the biggest reason that I got into film was the Lord of the Rings DVDs that I had as a kid.
Yeah.
All the behind the scenes, I would watch that religiously.
Yeah.
So my question for you was, what was the most challenging scene for you to film in the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Well, thank you for your question. The appendices in those DVDs are extraordinary. I mean, it's almost like film school in terms of the level of detail of the process that they showed people. I love those so much. And I've heard your story so many times of people who have sought out and who now work in film as a result of being so inspired by those DVDs. So that's amazing to hear. Wait, I lost what your question was. What was it?
I was just wondering, what was the most challenging?
Oh, the most challenging scene.
Film?
Yeah. I mean, I think the most challenging for me was probably the side of Mount Doom, as Frodo is no longer really Frodo anymore, and emotionally, physically getting that right. For it to be harrowing, for it to be upsetting to watch a character that you've watched go through this journey fall apart like that and kind of almost not make it. Just wanting to, like, really feeling the sense of responsibility to deliver that very important kind of climactic aspect of what the character was going through. So I remember Sean and I both really feeling that. So yeah, easily the hardest to just get right, you know?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, over here. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Topher, and I just wanted to start. Your work with Spectrovision has been a huge influence on me.
Oh, rad. Thanks, dude.
But I wanted to ask about Maniac.
Yeah.
Because when it came out, the big story was you demanded to be on set every day. And obviously that was a huge influence on how the movie turned out. So I was wondering if you would tell about what that experience was like.
Sure. Yeah, so I didn't quite demand, more just sort of suggested that it would be a good idea. But it's funny, like, from their perspective, they were offering me effectively like 2 weeks of, it'll be 2 weeks of work for all of the bits that are on camera, right? That's how it was pitched to me. Like, we're remaking this movie, we're doing it almost entirely from the POV of the killer, and he sees himself in reflection, so we only need to film you in your reflection, and then everything else is going to be voiceover. I was like, okay, and I loved the script. I was apprehensive at first, just the idea of remakes is always a little tricky, but that they were doing something so different from the original was, it separated it in a way that felt like it was its own thing. And so it just became apparent really quickly, like, I probably need to be there every day because choices need to be made from the standpoint of the actor to inform the DP where to move the camera and how to block a scene, so that the actor should be a part of that process, even if the actor's not on screen. And it ended up being so fun. I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to do it, and that it all worked out for me to be there the whole time. But it was essential. Like, we would block every scene out in a really traditional way, and the Maxime, the cinematographer, and also the operator would then like work out how he was going to fit into that sequence of blocking. And we would do this together, and it was kind of this amazing dance. And then I would find new ways to interject and break frame with a hand or an arm. And so it was kind of a discovery process every day that they wouldn't have had. But it was yeah. Anyway, it wasn't a demand of mine. It was just kind of, I think all of us collectively were like, oh, we need to do this together. We can't just have you come in and do these little bits. So it's really fun, really fun. It was kind of a part played in 3 parts, because there's the bits that you see of him on screen, and then there's these kind of ways that he breaks frame, and then there's the voiceover, and so it was these kind of different elements, and the character really came together at the very end in the VO stage, because I was able to re-record all of the dialogue and then interject breaths and do things that I wasn't able to do in the day.
It was excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead over here. It's your turn.
Oh, Elijah, hello, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Great, I found out you're in Yellow Jackets. Did you film at BCIT in Burnaby?
I believe we did.
Oh yeah, because I'm a journalism student there. You probably film I'm actually in the building on the other side when you were filming.
Okay, cool, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so I know last year was a big year for comebacks with, like, let's say with Brendan Fraser and Ki Hu Nin were like getting Academy Awards. Do you think you'll have that moment at some point?
For me?
Yeah, getting an Academy Award.
Oh, right. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, right?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be quite an honor, but these things, I don't know. I certainly don't. I'll put it this way: I don't make any choices based on that being a sort of achievable goal. But if that were to be something that would come into my life, it would be amazing. Like,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead over here.
Hi Elijah, I'm Derek.
Hi.
Big fan of Lord of the Rings and Frodo. I'm just wondering, are you more of a second breakfast kind of guy or an 11Cs kind of guy?
Yeah.
Put me in the 11Zs. I tend to eat breakfast quite late.
Right. Me too, yeah.
And sometimes I skip it altogether.
Good question. Food questions are always fun. Go ahead over here.
Hi, my name is Callie.
Hello, Callie.
Hi. Oh my gosh, sorry. A really big fan in general, obviously, but specifically of Over the Garden Wall.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you had a favorite name for Greg's frog, or just like something you liked about being a part of that show, that experience.
Yeah, oh God, what are the names for Greg's frog? I've completely forgotten all of them.
Valid.
And what was the other question?
Anything you liked about being a part of that show?
I mean, it was such a joy to make. The entire process of recording was wonderful. Patrick McHale, who created it, is a total delight. The songs that we would get to sing and sometimes not know we were getting to sing on the day was really fun. The cast was so great. It was the first time I got to work with Melanie Linsky, who I'm a huge fan of. She's in Yellow Jackets, if you know. Yeah, and I love the animation style. I mean, that's what drew me to it to begin with, was getting the offer to play Wirt in what was initially a short that you can see online. It wasn't a part of it was called Tome of the Unknown, and then it became the miniseries. But I was just in love with the world that they were creating. So yeah, no like a specific favorite part, but I'm really grateful to have been a part of it, and I love how it turned out. And it's one of my favorite things that I've gotten to work on.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Chris. Elijah.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of your horror movies, independent films. Is there any advice you would give to a horror movie director trying to get their film off the ground?
Oh man, advice to a horror film director to get their film off the ground?
Oh, in general, yeah.
Well look, I mean, the beautiful thing about horror is it tends to be relatively easy to finance, because there's always a market for horror movies. It'll never not be a success. You know, it's also the genre where, in some ways, you don't necessarily have to have quote-unquote star power or whatever for a movie to be successful, because it can kind of survive on the elements that make it scary. So horror will always be consistent. I mean, I don't know, I think to get your film off the ground, look, it's really hard to get movies off the ground in general. It's hard to get movies financed. But with horror, having a novel idea, something that feels unique, that hasn't been done before, tends to have an easier shot, you know? And also a script that is budgeted properly so that it's within its means, you know? It's probably my advice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Because you've played Frodo, and Frodo's so nice, like ridiculous, and then you've played some scary characters, like Kevin in Sin City still gives me nightmares. Anybody else? Like, seriously, what movie scares you?
Ooh. I don't really get scared by movies, but there's a few that I find very disturbing. Because I find, I don't get scared by movies, but I'm disturbed by movies. There's a couple. I think the original Michael Haneke Funny Games is really disturbing. I love it, but fuck, man. What else? There's a great movie called Begotten by a filmmaker called Elias Marriage that I find very disturbing. It's virtually wordless. It's black and white, but like heavily degraded film. You can't quite make out what you're seeing, which makes it all the more disturbing. Yeah, and I find violence, like real violence towards people and to like children, to be really upsetting. Horror is so fantastical most of the time. So that doesn't. It feels that there's a degree of separation, but with you know, movies where it feels real, I find those to be much harder to watch.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Go ahead over here.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Danielle, and I was wondering how close you were to the other actors.
In The Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, close. the Hobbits currently have, and have had for a couple of years now, a text thread going that we text each other every day. Generally, it's like the New York Times mini crossword scores and like our Wordle scores. And that could be days of that without anything else, and then, you know, something else will be texted. So yeah, and the others, we are connected. It's just, we all live in different countries and get busy, so occasionally there'll be an email or something or other here, but you know, when you go through something like that, when you work with people that closely over such a long period of time, it was 4 years of our lives, you're kind of linked forever, and I love them all so much, and we are, you know, a family.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Keenan.
Hello.
And question is, when you got the call from Peter Jackson about playing Frodo and you signed up for that adventure, what excited or terrified you the most about it at that time?
Well, I was 18 at the time, so I was embarking on what I knew to be the greatest adventure of my life. Like, I had never lived away from home on my own for that length of time. Prior to that, I think I'd been away from home for a month, and, you know, on my own. So, or a couple months. So this was like, I was going away for a long time to another country, halfway around the world. And so that was really significant. But at the same time, my memory is that I was just like super up for it. Like, super stoked. And seemingly very ready, which I kind of marvel at now, thinking about it. But that's kind of who I was, and I suppose who I am. Like, I just sort of jump into things with enthusiasm. You know, I think the only thing I would have been thinking about, which is something that happens still to this day, there's always like a couple of days of transition from traveling from home to a new place, getting acclimated, meeting the people in production, and kind of finding my comfort zone. It's still something I go through now. It's always a period of acclimation because it's new. It's a new place, it's a new home, it's new people. And I remember knowing that I was going to encounter that, getting to Wellington. And I remember feeling that very first day, getting to Wellington, so you land in Auckland at like 6 in the morning, 5:30, 6 in the morning, and then by the time you get to Wellington, it's like 9. Bilbo's quite unique for a hobbit in that hobbits don't adventure. They don't stray outside of the Shire. It's not what they do. But he really grew up underneath his uncle with this sort of admiration for adventure and the stories that he heard. And so he had this kind of wanderlust built into him. I totally relate to that. But then I also relate to the Hobbit side of him, you know, the comfort of home, a warm hearth, you know, a great meal with friends, connection to the earth and to the land and animals, like all of those things. And then I guess, I don't know, his sense of courage and not knowing quite where he's getting it from. I think I relate to that too a little bit. Yeah, but admire him for his wisdom, for his ability, his selflessness, you know, to take something on that he kind of knew was going to be much bigger than him and was ultimately going to be a sacrifice. And doing that without really thinking about it is really admirable and beautiful, you know?
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your answers.
Oh, thanks.
Go ahead over here.
Hi, I'd like to say I'm a huge fan of Over the Garden Wall.
I can see that.
I was just wondering, what's your favorite part on working on a smaller, niche, but beloved show such as Over the Garden Wall?
I mean, you don't really contextualize anything while you're making it based on its size. But getting to work on anything that feels pure, you know, and feels unique, it's what drives me. I just simply want to move from one unique piece of expression to the next. You know, so that's what was so special about being a part of Over the Garden Wall was, you know, voicing a character that I really love with this really beautiful dynamic between these two brothers in this animated world that was so vibrant and evoked kind of vintage animation and these old feelings from, you know, kind of old spooky ephemera and old storytelling of, you know, what happens when you get lost in the woods, all these things that I just loved. So yeah, getting to be in that world for a minute is just a joy, and that is reflected in, you know, most of what I get to do. I just love popping from one, you know, interesting creative universe to the next, whether it's Lord of the Rings on a giant scale or Over the Garden Wall and something much smaller. They all have something in common, which is that they're all really unique, pure, artistic expressions, you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead over here, it's your turn now.
Hi, Elisha.
Hello.
I have a very burning question for you.
Oh shit. I hope I have the answer.
Do you wear wigs?
I mean, I have, and I certainly will again.
But have you worn wigs?
Yes.
Will you wear wigs?
I definitely will.
And can you say the Can you say the word uwu?
Can I say the word what?
Uwu.
Uwu?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a meme.
It's a meme.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I'm glad to have uwu'd you.
Thank you. That was great.
Hey, has anyone seen Carol and the End of the World yet? Okay, y'all. It's on Netflix. It's fucking incredible. It's so good. It's so funny. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just telling you. I'm a big fan of animation, and I think what I'm thrilled by with Carol and the End of the World, so you'll see it, is that it deals, like, animation tends to be, for the most part, especially in the United States and North America, tends to deal in, like, family and kids, which is a great space, and even Over in the Garden Wall to a degree. But Carol and the End of the World is an adult story, and it's an existential